want you to erase from your brain everything that you know about feminine and masculine energy. Throw it out. Everything that you've seen on social media, everything that society has told you, just like throw it in the trash, okay? Because you see these people on social media say stuff like, oh, I'm in my divine feminine era, or like, this is what it means to be a man, and they're just spreading misinformation. So many people will hear feminine and masculine energy and immediately think of gender roles, stereotypes, aesthetic preferences. Feminine energy isn't about wearing dresses and being a submissive housewife. Masculine energy isn't about domination, control, and gaining muscles. Feminine and masculine energy are energetic principles. Some people reject the idea of feminine and masculine energy altogether. They say, why do you have to label everything? Aren't we all just souls? Feminine energy and masculine energy, those are all just constructs. They're made to oppress. And listen, I get it. I understand where this resistance is coming from. It comes from generations of being boxed into these rigid gender roles. But listen, the rigid gender roles are the distortion, not the energies themselves. Because the truth is, this polarity exists within all of us, regardless of gender. And yes, at a level of pure consciousness, we are beyond polarity. Our souls are formless. It holds all the different archetypes within it. It holds the feminine and masculine. It holds the light and the shadow without any sort of identification. But here's the thing. We are not just souls. We are souls in form. And in this dualistic world, polarity is how energy moves. It's how we grow. It's how we create. It's how we love. It's how we evolve. To erase polarity in the name of spiritual liberation, you actually block integration. It becomes a form of bypassing. To live in a human body in a world of day and night, inhale, exhale, sun and moon, to say that polarity is all an illusion is like refusing to breathe because there's no such thing as inhale and exhale. The key is not to erase polarity, but to integrate it. You cannot transcend what you have not first embodied. And in a world that's shaped by patriarchy, which is a huge energetic imbalance, to erase polarity, you just allow the most dominant force to keep posing as truth. Like, to ignore feminine energy in the name of neutrality or transcendence, you don't actually liberate women, you erase them completely. And in doing so, you harm everyone. So what actually is divine feminine and masculine energy? Every single person, no matter what their gender is, has both of these energies inside them. The feminine is the river, the masculine is the riverbed. One flows, one contains. Both of them are equally necessary. Divine feminine in its true form is intuition, flow, receptivity, emotion, creativity, magnetic, inner world. Divine masculine in its true form is logic, direction, action, structure, disciplined, focused, outer world. These are archetypal forces. They're not gender roles. They exist within everyone. You cannot be in pure feminine energy or pure masculine energy. These forces are not meant to exist in isolation. They're meant to complete one another. Like, flow without structure becomes chaos. Structure without flow is stagnation. Feminine and masculine energy isn't about behavior or roles or clothing. It's not about who cooks the dinner and who pays the bills. It's not about pink versus blue, dresses versus suits. These are universal forces: creation and direction, flow and structure, intuition and logic. When either of these forces are wounded or repressed, you end up getting a distortion. You don't get a balance. A lot of people hear these things like emotion, creativity, logic, direction, and say, aren't those just human traits? Why do you have to label them? Exactly, they are just human traits. Everyone has both of these energies within them. But that being said, most people do have a dominant polarity, one that feels most natural to them. And for many women, that is the feminine. And for many men, that is the masculine. Again, this isn't about gender roles. This is about energetic resonance. There are some women who feel most aligned in structure and logic, and there are some men who feel most aligned in flow and creativity. But I still need to note the fact that most women are feminine dominant because the global repression of feminine energy, things like emotion, intuition, creativity being demonized, has deeply impacted them. Something like 80% of people with autoimmune diseases are women because the system is not set up for us. The feminine has been labeled as irrational, as weak, as dangerous, and women have been shamed for their sensitivity, for their emotional truth, for their softness. And this wasn't because of the rise of healthy masculinity. This is because of the rise of the wounded masculine, which is all focused on domination, control, emotional suppression. And, this has had a really deep impact on men as well. Like, there's a huge mental health crisis in men. They're not allowed to feel their emotions. They're so disconnected from their hearts. But I have to mention women because women have been shamed for embodying the very essence which society itself devalues. What you need to understand about patriarchy is not the divine masculine. It is the wounded masculine. When there is an energetic imbalance, when any of these energies are repressed, a shadow manifestation of that energy arises. When you repress or invalidate feminine energy, what arises is the wounded feminine. And this shows up as victimhood, emotional chaos, neediness, manipulation, insecurity. And the wounded masculine arises, which is control, emotional repression, dominance, ego-based aggression, disconnection from soul. Notice how this is the leading force in patriarchy. Like, it's a glorification of force over feeling. I'm gonna put them both on the screen again just so you can see the difference between the divine form versus the wounded form. See, they're very different. These wounded traits are what rule our systems today, not the divine forms. That's why this isn't even like a men versus women issue. It's about all of us being raised in a structure that exiled half of the human experience while glorifying the other half in its most distorted form. A lot of what we've labeled as masculine in this world, things like domination, suppression, control, conquest, these are not true masculine traits. They're distorted shadows of masculine energy that are born out of fear and separation and out of disconnection from the feminine. We've mistaken the wound for the essence. Not sure if you've seen any rad femme content, but there's certain creators online. People like, what's her name? Priscilla the Queenmaker. And she says stuff like, men are incapable of empathy. They are incapable of love. They're purely transactional. They're parasitic, and that is just their biology. And this is just not true. It's not true. It's a distortion. Like, what we're seeing right now is a byproduct of the patriarchal conditioning ruled by the wounded masculine. It's like a scared child who's been yelled at and told to toughen up, to not feel any emotions, and then blaming the way that they act on the future on their biology. It's not true. What we see today as patriarchy isn't natural. It isn't true masculinity. It's what happens when we glorify control and suppress feeling. Like, the patriarchy isn't just the reign of men, it's the reign of the wounded masculine. This isn't the war of the genders. It isn't men versus women. It's about a loss of balance. It's about systems that have disconnected us from our true nature. The man who suppresses his feelings and dominates others is not in his true masculinity. He's in his wounded masculine. True masculine and true feminine energies must work together. One without the other will lead to collapse. And that's why we're seeing this collapse in society right now, because we've repressed the feminine energy for so long. Everything's out of balance. The wounded masculine is baked into everything. It is so deeply engraved into our culture and our mindset, from the workplace culture to the healthcare system to the education system to even architecture. And I'm going to have to make another video talking about this because there's so much I want to say. But the root of the world's sickness is the exile of the feminine, not just in women, but in consciousness itself. If you dig deep enough to any sort of problem that we have in this world, this is the underlying cause of all dysfunction. In our society, we are so obsessed with treating the symptoms, but never looking at the root cause. We talk about all these things that are wrong, things like late-stage capitalism, hustle culture, colonization, environmental problems, relationship problems, mental health crisis, education system, and all of these things are symptoms of something else. We need to look at what the root cause is. And a lot of the times we'll look at the root cause and we'll just say, that's just human behavior. The kind of Thomas Hobbes worldview. Humans are naturally greedy and selfish. We're animalistic and, focused on survival. But the thing is, that is just not true. Because people who are energetically balanced don't function like that. The root of all of these problems is an energetic imbalance. It's the wounded masculine that has been in power for too long. These things are just symptoms. And if you try to fix the problem by treating the symptoms without looking at the root cause, you're just going to create another system that's just as bad or worse because it's coming from the same frequency. Again, I'm going to have to film another video breaking this down further, But I cannot stress to you enough how much the wounded masculine of patriarchy is embedded into everything in our society. Literally all of our systems, all of our everyday beliefs and assumptions. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The system hurts everyone. Men are conditioned to cut themselves off from their emotions in order to be strong providers. Women's told their value depends on how well they can suppress their natural rhythms in order to keep up. Children are pushed into standardized, mechanized learning structures that kill their creativity and wonder. One thing about women in this society that prioritizes speed, output, competition is that we're kind of presented with two options, right? You can either be a hustle grind girl boss where you suppress your emotions, you ignore your bodily cycles, you perform productivity, you get rewarded for outworking your nervous system and end up with like chronic stress and perhaps an autoimmune disease. Or you could become a trad wife where you are obedient, you serve male comfort, you're financially enslaved to someone else while still taking on the emotional labor and all the housework, and you have to erase your sense of self. And like both of these two options are rooted in the same wounded system. There has to be another option. In a system where value is measured by productivity, consistency, rapid output, the cyclical and emotional and intuitive nature of feminine energy is seen as a weakness. Not because it is weak, but because the system itself fears what it cannot control. The programming runs so deep. Some women get really insulted when they even hear the word feminine because they think that they're being called weak and submissive. But what they're rejecting isn't femininity itself, it's the wound around it. Feminine energy is not weakness. It's literally the pulse of creation. It's the soul of the earth. It's the force that makes life actually worth living. It's the beauty, it's the chaos, it's the mystery, it's the love. It's not fragile and soft, it's sovereign. So what does a healthy balance of feminine and masculine energy look like? When you have a healthy balance of feminine and masculine, your intuition speaks and you're able to act on it. You're able to feel emotions and hold space for them. You're able to create art and create structures and systems in this world that support it. And this is a divine union, not just in relationships, but within yourself. It's internal. Some traits of healthy feminine energy. Again, this exists within everyone because everyone has both of these energies within them, regardless of gender. You trust your inner voice, even if it contradicts logic. You're able to receive compliments, love, money, support, without feeling guilty about it or over-explaining. You allow yourself to feel your emotions without feeling guilty about it or suppressing them. You feel connected to life, to beauty, to nature, to yourself. Healthy masculine energy looks like being able to take action on intuitive nudges without procrastination. Following through with the commitments that you make to yourself, like waking up early or completing a task. Creating structures and systems to support your flow, things like calendars or to-do lists. You protect your energy by setting boundaries. You're able to make decisions from a place of clarity rather than panic or people-pleasing. You don't shame yourself into needing structure. You use structure to support your higher vision. When you integrate these energies and have a healthy balance, you feel safe within yourself. You feel expressed and nourished while also feeling grounded and clear. You don't swing between burnout and collapse. You have a life that includes both effort and ease. You trust your intuitive ideas, which is your feminine, while also being able to take the action steps to bring them into life with your masculine. You're not afraid to rest, but you're also not afraid to take action. You show up consistency, but without rigidness. You create from both passion and intention. Your work has the heart and the container. I'm gonna read off a few things that are common signs of an imbalance, just so you know. So, wounded feminine shows up as over-emotional and overwhelmed, victim mindset, passivity, procrastination, people-pleasing, lack of boundaries, feeling unworthy to receive. Wounded masculine shows up as controlling or rigid, burnout from overproduction, suppression of expression, perfectionism, fear of vulnerability, hustle without soul. The world doesn't need more masculine men or more feminine women. It needs whole people who are grounded in their truth, who are balanced in their energies. Balancing these energies within us is how we will heal the whole world outside of us. As within, so without. You don't fix a sick tree by painting its leaves. You have to get to the root. And this energetic imbalance is the root of everything, but it starts internally. That's my video for today. I hope you liked it. I'm going to have to talk more about this topic, so stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.